Now, the South African Depression and Anxiety Group is currently running a National Teenage Suicide Prevention Week. The week is set aside to raise awareness on how to prevent teenage suicide. Statistics by the organization show that teenage suicide is becoming exceptionally common. The statistics also show that a suicide occurs every 40 seconds and attempts every 3 seconds. Reported incidents of suicide in just a year amount to 9% of the death rate, and factors that commonly influence teen suicide are substance abuse as well as depression. Joining us in studio to discuss the issue is NKINI PHASHA, who is the treasurer from the South African Drug and Anxiety Group, and he's a board member there as well. Good to have you. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you,
These statistics are frightening. I mean, is this correct when we can turn around and say that a suicide occurs every 40 seconds and there's an attempt every 3 seconds in South Africa?
Indeed, it is actually frightening, it's shocking, and I mean the problem is actually escalating. There's still a huge amount of communities that are not being counted in statistics. And in the statistics that we're seeing, and suicide ranks amongst the top 3 causes of death amongst our young people in South Africa. So this problem is escalating, and us as a South African Depression and Anxiety Group, we have decided to take the fight on and to really stand up and start spreading the word and educate the people. And create awareness around exactly what causes this trend that we are seeing, and also what is it that people can actually do to get help, because there is help out there.
You were telling me that there are around about, is it 25 suicides a day in South Africa? That's what it stands at. Particularly, are we talking only about the youth now?
We're talking about the youth.
25 youth people today are going to kill themselves out of depression.
In South Africa. And I mean, if one looks at what are the factors that that cause our young people to even consider suicide as an option, we need to understand that young people, they have not fully developed. So they are psychologically, they cannot really rationalize a lot of things, and they tend to be very impulsive. However, we know that for those suicides that are successful, there is a strong association of suicide and depression. So that is sort of like one of the predisposing factors that can lead to a young person taking away their life. And in a country like South Africa, where there's still a huge amount, or rather a sense of stigma associated to mental illness in general. So if you're talking depression, there's still a lot of ignorance in terms of people understanding what exactly is depression, what causes depression, and therefore then what do I then do?
Well, let's do that. Let's talk about it. And when exactly does depression actually manifest itself? I mean, I was frightened to hear recently, we did an interview about nursery school children already having stress. And with stress, one can find depression is one of the ultimate results. What ages should we look at, and what do we look for?
Leanne, we've had suicides as young as 10, where a young person that age, they're already, taking away their lives. So it really is just unbelievable. So it can stretch from any age from that age, obviously to just over 21, and that's sort of like the group that we are looking at. Very often you get asked, but what is this depression, and really what causes depression? What we know is that depression is a medical condition. So that is the first thing that people need to understand, that like any other medical condition like diabetes, hypertension, depression is a chronic condition. It's a medical condition. To put it mildly, or rather sort of in the layman's term, what causes depression is where in your brain, I always like to put it like in the sense that parts of your brain that are responsible for you interacting, with the outside world, for your happiness, they shut down. And you have another part of your brain that really takes over. And this is the part where, it's responsible for the sad mood. It's responsible for really feeling empty, hopeless. And that starts to manifest. And purely because in your brain you've got a chemical called serotonin. It's one of the chemicals that you have in your brain. What happens in a depressive person, that chemical is deficient. So you don't have enough of that chemical being stimulated in your brain to assist your brain to be able, to interact socially.
Indeed. What are parents, though? I mean, parents are probably the biggest key to preventing this. Parents, perhaps friends and teachers at schools. What do they look out for? What are those signs of a child that is suffering from depression?
There are key signs, definitely, and in our young people, the 3 main signs that they can look out for is persistent mood change, where there's persistent sadness in the young person. Also, if they are, a high performer at school, their marks drop. There's also changes in sleeping and eating patterns. We find that in some young people, they will tend to eat a lot. Comfort eating. Whilst others, their appetite just completely disappears. Some young people, they tend to sleep for many hours. However, they still wake up feeling very fatigued and really not having any energy to engage in anything.
What do you do then? If you notice the signs in your child, what do you do? Do you take them to a psychiatrist, a psychologist? Do you talk to them yourself? What do you do?
Absolutely. It's very, very important to seek professional help. First of all, it's important to support them, to love them and show them that you care. But I think it's very important that you also engage professionals. People can contact us as well as the South African Depression and Anxiety Group. We've got a network of experts. We've got psychiatrists, we've got psychologists, that people can actually engage with. We've got trained counselors as well in our call center where people can phone us and start engaging with our trained counselors. They can also visit our website, and part of what we're going to be doing in this week is that we have created on our website where people can actually go and have interactive discussions with our experts, where they can pose what their issues are, what their problems are, and in that way then we'll get the experts to start responding to them and to start offering alternative solutions to our people.
Let's give that toll-free number. What
our toll-free number is 0800
Yeah?
21 22 23.
Okay.
0800 21 22 23. We also have an SMS line where young people, obviously they've got cell phones, most of them.
Yeah.
It's 31393. 31393, and our counselors will then get in touch with them and call them back and then start engaging with them to offer them solutions.
All right, listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. NKINI PHASHA, who is from SADC, he's the treasurer there on the board, and the South African, as you've heard, Depression and Anxiety Group is currently running a National Teenage Suicide Prevention Week. The question we're asking you this morning is, with such a high teenage suicide rate here in South Africa, we're talking about 25 teenagers a day in South Africa commit suicide. Why? What is the problem? What do you think is affecting children? We've just spoken about depression being one of the major causes. Alcohol abuse, I even saw financial constraints is one of the reasons. But what do you think, and what can we do to prevent suicide in our teenagers? SMS your views to MLive, followed by your comment, the number 33726. All right, it's heading up towards 7 o'clock where we've got the main news bulletin of the morning for you. But right now, let's get on Dile, and she's got our weather report.
Now, our weather update promises quite clear skies and pleasant conditions for most of Gauteng, extending into the KwaZulu-Natal Midlands. Otherwise, we could be seeing those low-lying clouds over the eastern high ground that could decrease visibility, as well as a 30% chance of isolated thunder showers expected to cover most of Mpumalanga, extending into the lowveld of Limpopo as well. So do try and be cautious there. Now, the rest of the country will be seeing a 30% chance of isolated thunder showers in the afternoon, covering most of the Northwest Province, the Northern Cape, and the Free State, with those extremely hot and uncomfortable conditions expected in the Midlands and coastal regions of the Eastern Cape and in places in the West Coast district of the Western Cape. So we also do have a high felt fire danger rating in places in the Karoo region in the Western Cape. So do try and be as cautious as possible. Wind speeds expected to be on the moderate side into the mid to high 20s there. Now, looking into your temperatures this morning, very warm along the southeastern coastline, decreasing just by a degree or two for most of the central interior, extending into most of Gauteng. Not much of a change is expected later on this afternoon, with temperatures into the early 30s for the West Coast, 26 in Cape Town, with 31 degrees expected for both Port Elizabeth and East London. Very hot conditions in the Midlands of KwaZulu-Natal, Pietermaritzburg at 32. 23 degrees expected for Ermelo, with Gauteng experiencing mostly high 20s later on this afternoon. So you might just want to consider driving cautiously on the way to work for most of the central interior. That's all from me for now. Stay tuned for more weather updates.
very good morning to you. It is the 15th of February 2011, Tuesday morning, 7 o'clock. Welcome to the main news bulletin here on SABC 2. 9 people have been killed and 3 seriously injured in a road accident on the N1 near Leeugamka in the Karoo. Western Cape traffic officials say a truck carrying steel overturned. Some of the cargo hit an oncoming minibus taxi, which left the road and then burst into flames. Labour unions and the Road Freight Employers Association will meet today to try and end a truck drivers' strike. The strike has begun to affect fuel deliveries. It's also sparked violent protests in Johannesburg. 4 people were injured when police fired rubber bullets at strikers yesterday. They had attacked non-strikers and damaged their vehicles. The SA Transport and Allied Workers Union has warned that the road freight industry will be brought to a standstill as about 65,000 members will be joining the strike. The truckers are demanding a 20% wage increase over 2 years. The employers are offering 15%. Analysts say the strike could have a severe impact on important services. These include the deliveries of fuel to petrol stations, gas to hospitals, and coal to Eskom's power stations.
Roads are the main transport artery for goods and services in the country. Therefore, the truckers' strike is likely to impact on consumers sooner rather than later.
Food in general is transported on the road. So the longer the strike will take, it means there's always a threat that we can have shortage of food.
Even if the strike is short-lived, consumers will still feel the heat. Already, the price of petrol is rising, electricity will go up by 25% again this year, and Gauteng's high toll fees are imminent.
The cost of transport is going to have to increase, and that will definitely be passed on to consumers. And also with the current strike, when there's in the transport sector where there's demand for 20% increase, if that really comes through, or even if 15% of that really comes through, then you can expect that it's going to be passed on to consumers in some way or form.
Busa has requested an urgent meeting with the Transport Minister to find alternatives to the planned toll fees. Mbongeni Muchwa, SABC News, Johannesburg.